Hello and welcome back to Elliott's podcast, the first of 2022. New year, same me. That's the old meme that people like, but there is a different me here because I have my guitar out and I thought it would be nice to start playing music on my podcast and force me to play live. And I guess the disclaimer for that is it's a work in progress. And I don't want to say that and then create this doubt in your mind that this is worth listening to. But I know that on my own, in my own way, this is my first time doing a podcast like this. So it's a much different thing. And the other thing too is that the music that will be in this episode is improvised. So that's the other thing about it. And I believe that does constitute some form of art. The fact that the what you are hearing today has never been created. Now, what I will say is that the construction of how the songs are made has been sort of done through experimentation and what we'd, I guess, call rehearsal and practice. But overall, it's its own thing. So I welcome you to a new year. I'm just trying to get comfortable here. It's a different setup. The new year is upon us, and I had a good New Year's Eve, did absolutely nothing, and was in bed by 10 o'clock, and got woken up at midnight by neighbors who there was a lot of fireworks going on, and people were out on their balcony watching the fireworks. And yeah, I reminisce about how New Year's used to be a big deal, and in the old me. Starting a few years ago, I really was done with New Year's, but sometimes I would go I used to go out to, I used to like a lot of dance music when I was younger, and so New Year's was a big thing for that industry, planning which party you're going to go to, and I got tired of that fairly quickly. It's just, New Year's is a lot of hype. It actually was a lot of that hype got kind of split with Halloween as well. I think people got antsy for having another type of holiday similar. So, like for people who really like to party, Halloween was starting to take the crown away from New Year's a bit. But yeah, the pandemic, New Year's has made going to clubs taboo. I think in the previous year, it was not even, I don't think it was even really possible last year. This year, it would have been possible, but that's where it gets into taboo. Either way, I feel somewhat ready for this new year to happen. And I was running a workshop this week on simplifying your projects for the new year. And the biggest takeaway from that workshop was to, rather than make a 1-year plan, is to just do 12 weeks. And there's even a book called The 12-Week Year. 12 weeks is 3 months, and take things in 3-month increments, because you will forget. If you're the type that sets goals, you will quickly forget what the goal is after a few months. So you might as well just set those three months as if it's a year, and just work in that little time frame. So that's some little tidbit I'd share with you. All right, so we are going to head into the first piece of music, and then I'll come back and talk some more. So this is no name to this piece, but I will say it's in the key of E, and let's let it play. Okay, so the big thing about this setup here is I have two things. One thing you can't see on screen, which is an effects pedal called the Line 6 HX Stomp, which I will talk about that another time. It's a very interesting pedal. But the better story is this guitar, which is the Epiphone Century 1966 model. And I believe every instrument, every piece of gear you buy has a story behind it. And the story behind this one is that I went to Long McQuaid, Canada's biggest music retailer. I went to their store in Brampton, which is a suburb of Toronto, and I went there to rent a semi-hollow body guitar, which refers to sort of what you'd call jazz style guitars is the best description. It's kind of acoustic because it's hollowed out, but it's mostly intended for electric, and it has the little F holes on them, so it looks like a violin. And I understand that some people aren't able to see the video of this, so I'm just kind of, that's why I mentioned the F holes. This guitar looks like a very old, like it's called 1966, but it really looks like something from the 1930s, 40s. You think gypsy jazz, that sort of style. And this guitar was not intended to have anything really to do with it. I was there to rent the semi-hollow body guitar, and I had narrowed it down to two of them. But the problem with those is they felt very electric, and I already have electric guitars, and I just kept picking up this thing. And I tend to actually gravitate towards acoustic instruments overall. I just like the aliveness to them. I know that sounds kind of, I was going to use the word organic. It's kind of corny, but there's just something about the resonance and vibration I feel from acoustic instruments. But when it comes to acoustic guitar, I don't really like the big one, which is called the Dreadnought. That's your standard big honkin' acoustic guitar that you typically associate with maybe a folk artist. And so this guitar that I have it falls under electric in the category. Like in a music store, this wouldn't be sitting in the acoustics department. So it has kind of in my opinion, the best of both worlds. I kept playing it, and it wasn't available for rent. So I had to take it. I had to purchase it, and the deal in my head is that I'm supposed to sell one of my electric guitars to make way for this, but I've been very slow to do that because it's it's not fun to sell a guitar. You have to meet with the person, and I think it's overall a pretty quick process. You're very clear about what the model is and the condition and any flaws, they know, and they just meet you, and then you do the deal. But it's just been a little strange with pandemic and meeting strangers and that sort of thing. So I end up taking it, and the music store has a policy where you can return the instrument after 30 days before 30 days, before, I don't know, if you're unhappy with it. And typically I don't like to buy things on that premise. But for this, I said, yeah, I would, because the sales rep reminded me that was the sales technique. And in this case, I said, yeah, I will. If I have any buyer's remorse, I will return this guitar, no problem. Took it home. I was like, whoa, I keep playing it a lot and I keep enjoying it. So it stuck, and there's just a few things about it that make it interesting to me. One is that it uses flat wound strings. That's what it came with, which are probably what you'd think of like a violin type string. They're very thick, they don't bend, and they give it a different tone, which is typically the jazz guitar tone. And then there's also one pickup a lot of electric type guitars have 2 or 3 pickups that give you some options for your tone, and this one only has 1, so you're limited, and that actually helps give the guitar a bit more sustain because there's less, because pickups have magnets, and the more magnets stop the strings from vibrating. So I think overall what has attracted me to the guitar is that it has more resistance, like mostly from the strings being flat wound. It's just a tougher guitar to play, and I've really kind of taken to that challenge, and it's more fun in that way. It's kind of the best way I can describe it. I also do like hearing the guitar when I'm like, I often play this guitar without it even being plugged in. Let me see if I can give a toot and see if the microphone here picks up so you can see what it sounds like. I know you. So it's just it's a good vibe, and the only problem with it at the moment is that this pickup it came with is kind of noisy. It's called a P93, I guess, and it's true to the style of the guitar, but it has something called 60 cycle hum. I won't be able to demonstrate it right now, but so I mean a thing I can do is I can change the pickup later on to one that the same style of pickup that has no hum. That's typically what happens on a lot of guitars, and this is I wouldn't call this a cheap guitar. It's in the $600-700 range Canadian, around 700 Canadian dollars. But that does mean it's made in China, and as a result of guitars made in China, there's in under $1,000, there's usually certain things that from any brand of guitars, there's usually like something that has to give. In this case, I don't know if that I have to talk to someone about the pickup to see if there was an intention to why it's a style that has hum on it. But I think from what I've been doing with the guitar, I would ideally get a pickup that doesn't have the hum. I like to record a lot. And as in this episode, I run it through effects, this pedal, and so if you're running your guitar into an amp, maybe hum isn't as, I don't know if hum is as big a deal. It depends on the amp, of course. It could be brutal. It could be so brutal that you could have feedback, but the point of this is that some people play guitars through amps, and they don't really focus on hum as much. But I play a lot with headphones on, and as I said, recording, and so I take hum very seriously. So it's one of my things that I listen for when I'm. And typically I actually had a rule for a while. I wasn't going to buy any more guitars that have hum issues. I have a few of them already that have hum, and this one slipped through again. So yeah, there's the thing about buying instruments is, and I guess the pandemic kind of accelerated the issue, is that if you're kind of in the market for one, I mean, the problem is that the problem with guitars has been they come at you when you're not even in the market for them. One of the best things to do is just not go into the music store. I have no issue with, like, I'm not the type that looks at guitars online and says, "Oh, I want that guitar," just by seeing it online, what happens is almost across the board, I'm in the music store and there'll be a guitar that was maybe on sale or available for rent, and that's where it kind of the problems start, and you pick the thing up and then you play it and you can't put it down. So that's my issue. So the strategy is to just not go in the store. But if you are in the market for an instrument, it really comes down, and this applies to keyboards and stuff as well, is that it really does come down to a feeling, and it would not be surprising that you could get an instrument that you never, like I've bought a keyboard that I didn't play before I bought it because it was in lockdown style pandemic, and I brought it home and I was like, whoa, this keyboard is not, I did not picture the keys being this weird, and so I had to return that keyboard. But the thing that I was about to say relevant to the pandemic is that supply chains, like you kind of, it was like this with guitars anyways before. If you resonated well with a guitar, you should buy that guitar and take it, and just know that, because it's similar to that whole thing about when you're picking a meal. If you're picking between two places, the first one that comes to your mind is the one you should pick, or else the other place that you pick, you're always going to be regretting the not picking the first place. Sometimes it feels like that with instruments, is like it can really stick in your head if you didn't strike, and then the item is gone, it's sold out. And I think on nicer instruments that are less factory line, I mean, nowadays a lot of them are fairly factory line, but they can be fairly unique, and they don't all play exactly the same. And that's the other reason for snapping up the one that you've connected with. It might just be set up just that way. So yeah, it's an interesting chase, but I've been learning about this. I learned about this book called The Molecule of More, which is about dopamine, and it is kind of relevant to a lot of the music stuff, because a music gear, and it's very related to shopping in general, is that dopamine seeks out new experiences and things, and it kind of creates this lusting type situation, and you can't shake it out of your head once dopamine is in the picture, which was actually apparently not even discovered until it wasn't even discovered until the 1950s apparently, which is kind of crazy that we're just so new to the dopamine game. And it seeks new experiences, and it's not happy. And in this book, The Molecule of More, which I'm waiting to get to read, is the dopamine is contrasted with here and now chemicals, which I believe are like things like serotonin. I forget which other ones are, or hormones. Serotonin and I forget, the other here and now hormones. And I'm interested in that because I've had incidents where you get instruments in your head. The lap steel was one of them. Like I barely even played the lap steel in the store. That's the kind of country Hawaiian guitar I've talked about in the past. I don't think I even played it. And something about it just got in my head. And it started to show up in my dreams. And when that happens, I said, I better entertain this. And I've been fairly happy with that idea. I bought one. And yeah, a lap steel guitar is not usually the most intense purchase because of it doesn't have frets on it or anything. And so I was overall happy with that. But I've been very cognizant since then that what we often do is we're happier to shop for things rather than sit down and play our instrument. And I don't know what will be the next thing. I've already been eyeing this thing called the Fender Acoustasonic, because I'm starting to play more where I like to tap the guitar, and that thing picks up that tapping on the body. But I'm now very well aware that like a lot of it is a trick, and the trick is that we think we get this easy way out when we buy things, and we think happiness is around the corner when we need this next thing. And the book that I'm referring to also, it goes into many other areas. I think love is a common one, and and when the dopamine gets into the picture, everything gets really clouded, and people, and by the way, on the topic of love, the insinuation of the book is that people might want to consider, what do you value like a solid, reliable relationship, or do you value a rocky lifetime of chasing after partners or whatever? And it's similar with gear, because like, do you value the growth that happens from playing and exploring, or do you value chasing after gear, having dreams about lap steel guitars and going out and buying them, and then when you bring it home, you realize the instrument has all this hum, and then you got to upgrade the pickups. A lot of stuff you buy is not just the one. There's often little things that need to be purchased alongside a piece of gear. So yeah, this was I do as I said, the HX Stomp, I can't even point the camera down there, but it's an effects pedal that you program your own pedal board virtually, and that's why I think that was a pretty good purchase, because pedal boards are another area that people go crazy with, and they keep buying new pedals, and this thing really takes care of it was obviously more expensive up front, but then I know that like I can just experiment with delay pedals and reverbs and all that. It's right in the pedal, and I can put my mind to rest overall fairly easily. So that was pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna play one more, and then that'll be it for this episode. But I thank you for listening, and welcome to the new year. It's going to be a great one. I got lots of good stuff on the go, and yeah, all right, well, take care, and we'll see you soon.